I'm kind of obsessed with the idea of creative vision in a game. I was watching the new video by Mark Brown, Game Maker's Toolkit, and I thought it was pretty good because it's about prototyping, and prototyping is good because it's fun, a bit of a throwback, a bit of a callback. Anyway, I thought it was really interesting. I think it's a very well-made video, and it does a good job at covering the topics it aims to. However, there's one point in the video I found especially interesting, and I'm not going to quote it. I'm not going to cite it exactly, because I don't remember exactly what it was. But at some point in the video, he's talking about how you can prototype ideas by getting two similar prototypes that are trying out like a couple different ideas that you've had, and putting them in front of players to see which ones they like more. For the aim of creating a commercially successful product, a game as a commercially successful product, I don't think there's anything wrong with this idea. I think it's a workflow. I think it's good to know your audience and know what they want and know what they respond well to. However, I don't think you should take that as general advice. And I think the reason why I feel that way, I struggle to come up with a good way to word it that isn't inflammatory to either developers or players. In the nicest way possible, a lot of people in general, not just in games, don't know what they want. Or rather, they know how to respond and identify things that they like with very minimal, they like easy. It goes down easy. You have honey on your toast and you go, oh, yummy, so sweet. But these aren't necessarily always the experiences that will respond the best to. And I think in the context of playtesting, it's a little better than doing like a random focus group, because you do have the ability to say, okay, these players responded to this well in a gameplay context. But the experience of a prototype test between two groups where one responds to the mechanic, like, it is still a different context to a finished game. There's the big topic of discussion a little bit ago was Hollow Knight Silksong. That has plenty of stuff in that game that individually is cool, I like, could be received well by general audiences, but the specific ways that they deploy it makes it unpopular among audiences. There's a lot of boss fights in Silksong that people complain about, not because of the fight itself, but because of some kind of extra thing attached to it. I think the biggest example is like Grohl the Great, where it's like a ridiculously long walk back. There's like an environmental hazard that blocks your healing that's in the fight as well. There's an enemy gauntlet before it. There's a lot that gets added together. Oh, there's a cheese strat as well, so you don't even really need to engage with the fight. I think a lot of this adds up together to create like a different experience to what you would get if you just kind of put any of these mechanics in front of a player group compared to another one. Like, I'm sure most people wouldn't like the environmental hazard in any situation, but it's not hard to imagine that there are ways to represent the mechanic in a way where players like it during their playtesting or prototyping stage, and they don't like it during actual gameplay. But also, I think my more important point that I'm kind of rambling around is I don't think it matters. I don't think, from the perspective of a commercial product, obviously it does matter. You do want players to enjoy your game, but from the purpose of creating an artistic artifact, from creating a work of art that a game is, from the perspective of if you're interested in creating games to explore the medium of games and explore their potential for creating a lot of different aesthetic and emotional responses in players, I think things like, do players like this or this more, become less important. And then if you're trying to create an effect in a player other than I'm enjoying this game, it's harder to accomplish that through that kind of prototyping and showing off to players. I think prototyping is still great in this context, but you need to take a bit more of a stance of like, I'm comparing these, maybe a few people in my inner circle of freaks are comparing these, and we're trying to see which one creates this artistic effect, this emotional effect, the best. Because an audience of playtesters or prototype, people you put your prototype in front of, or whatever, might be less able to identify this kind of thing. And the thing is, I don't think this is a full-on counter-argument, because my perspective on what I think the point of this all is inherently different. Game Maker's Toolkit is very much made from the perspective of our commercial games industry. But to elevate myself a little bit higher than the immediate thing I'm thinking about, which there's a lot to talk about here, but it gets me thinking a lot about those differences in perspective and those differences in, I guess, what we think the medium is all about. Games are a young medium, and they are, independently of that, a very immature medium. Not in that games are inherently immature, or that games are inherently childish, or that games are inherently for children, but rather that games are a medium defined by marketing C-suites for a very long time, and that's impacted a lot of everything. Player expectations, developer expectations, best practices, education, everything, to the point where it's not even purposeful, it's automatic. It's one of those things, right, where whether it was purposeful or not at first, at this point it's ingrained into the industry. And it gets me thinking about other industries. I would love to see a lot of stuff with the same level of care and thought put into it as Game Maker's Toolkit, that is maybe focused on being a seminal work for games and exploring the ways in which we can make and test and create and showcase and improvise and iterate games as an iterative medium. In alternative ways, in ways that focus on completely different things, that focus on exploring the boundaries of the medium, that focus on exploring the boundaries of what responses you can trigger of the medium, that focus on satirizing or undermining or subverting the medium. I'm a little bit sick of every single interesting game idea being a subversion of things that are done in games as like a trope or whatever, but at the same time I would also like to see more of it. I would just like it to not be the only thing that seems to be noteworthy. And when I think of like comics, I think of I've got a bunch of books on my shelf. Pull out a book. We got books like this. We got drawing words and writing pictures. We got Eisner's comics and sequential art. And for Stupid bookshelf. You know, we got Scott McCloud, we got Understanding Comics. And I guess the disparity I find between these and a lot of games educational material that I've encountered is that if I want to go into the commercial side of the industry, if I want to create products for a mass audience, I get a lot out of these books. If I am interested in the medium, how the medium accomplishes things, how the medium can be used, how you know, the potential that the medium has as an artistic space for exploration, I can also get a lot out of this book. You know, the animator's survival kit, Richard Williams, is a great example for animation. After being like massively homophobic, but like you know, it's very similar where there's a lot of stuff that's obviously important and useful if you're interested in creating commercial works. Richard Williams was someone who did that. But also it explores the medium and its potential and ways in which you can explore it, and like techniques, concrete techniques of the medium. Things that the medium can or cannot do, that you can choose to do or not do for a purposeful, artistic, emotional effect. And I feel like a lot is lost in current games education and conversation around games, and we only focus around this kind of thing, games as a commercial product for enjoyment. Because at the end of the day, like, yeah, there is a degree of commercialization to the video games industry, but it's commercialization of an art form. And obviously, as someone engaged with the medium rather than the product or the economic ecosystem, the products, plural, I'm just a lot more interested in seeing that develop. And I don't know, I really hope to see stuff like that blossom. I'd really love to see an environment of education and creation in games where stuff like this isn't just like random free itch.io games that are kind of vaguely interesting and maybe get exhibited once. Even though obviously the people doing that kind of stuff are very cool, you know, shout outs Boshi's Play, shout outs Indiepocalypse. But I'd like to see more of it. I'd like to see so much more of it that it's considered completely uncontroversial and unimportant to say this kind of thing. Like, it should just be taken as a given. Like, you know, it would be cool. I hope to see it before I die or I'm old. Also, yes, my room is really messy.
And I paint those pictures that you like. Little landscapes cropped around the sides. Constrict my body up at night. Using my face in candlelight. Just know I speak when spoken to. I can't talk pretty like you do. Discarding every afternoon. I keep it easier for Among Us.
My old house was filled with insects.